Welcome to Bite at a Time Books, where we read you your favorite classics one bite at a time. My name is Bree Carlile, and I love to read and wanted to share my passion with listeners like you. You can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. You'll also find our new t-shirts in the shop, including podcast shirts and quote shirts from your favorite classic novels. Be sure to follow my show on your favorite podcast platform so you get all the new episodes. We're part of the Bite at a Time Books Productions Network. If you'd also like to hear what inspired your favorite classic author to write their novels, and what was going on in the world at the time, check out the Bite at a Time Books Behind the Story podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Today we'll be continuing Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. Book 5th, Grandson and Grandfather. Chapter 1. In which the tree with the zinc plaster appears again. Some time after the events which we have just recorded, Sieur Boulatruelle experienced a lively emotion. Sieur Boulatruelle was that road mender of Montfermeil, whom the reader has already seen in the gloomy parts of this book. Boulatruelle, as the reader may, perchance recall, was a man who was occupied with divers and troublesome matters. He broke stones and damaged travelers on the highway. Road mender and thief as he was, he cherished one dream. He believed in the treasures buried in the forest of Montfermeil. He hoped someday to find the money in the earth at the foot of a tree. In the meanwhile, he lived to search the pockets of passers-by. Nevertheless, for an instant, he was prudent. He had just escaped neatly. He had been, as the reader is aware, picked up in Jondrette's garret in company with the other ruffians. Utility of a vice. His drunkenness had been his salvation. The authorities had never been able to make out whether he had been there in the quality of a robber or a man who had been robbed. An order of nolle prosequi, founded on his well-authenticated state of intoxication on the evening of the ambush, had set him at liberty. He had taken to his heels. He had returned to his road from Gigny to Ligny to make, under administrative supervision, broken stone for the good of the state, with downcast mien, in a very pensive mood. His ardor for theft somewhat cooled, but he was addicted nonetheless tenderly to the wine which had recently saved him. As for the lively emotion which he had experienced a short time after his return to his road-mender's thatched cot, here it is. One morning, Boulatruelle, while on his way as was his wont to his work, and possibly also to his ambush, a little before daybreak caught sight, through the branches of the trees, of a man, whose back alone he saw, but the shape of whose shoulders, as it seemed to him at that distance and in the early dusk, was not entirely unfamiliar to him. Boulatruelle, although intoxicated, had a correct and lucid memory, a defensive arm that is indispensable to anyone who is at all in conflict with legal order. "Where the deuce have I seen something like that man yonder?" he said to himself. But he could make himself no answer, except that the man resembled someone of whom his memory preserved a confused trace. However, apart from the identity which he could not manage to catch, Boulatruelle put things together and made calculations. This man did not belong in the countryside. He had just arrived there. On foot, evidently. No public conveyance passes through Montfermeil at that hour. He had walked all night. Whence came he? Not from a very great distance, for he had neither haversack nor bundle. From Paris, no doubt. Why was he in these woods? Why was he there at such an hour? What had he come there for? Boulatruelle thought of the treasure. By dint of ransacking his memory, he recalled in a vague way that he had already, many years before, had a similar alarm in connection with a man who produced on him the effect that he might well be this very individual. "By the deuce," said Boulatruelle, "I'll find him again. I'll discover the parish of that parishioner. This prowler of Patron Minette has a reason, and I'll know it. People can't have secrets in my forest if I don't have a finger in the pie." He took his pickaxe, which was very sharply pointed. "There now," he grumbled, "is something that will search the earth and a man." And as one knots one thread to another thread, he took up the line of march at his best pace in the direction which the man must follow, and set out across the thickets. When he had compassed 100 strides, the day, which was already beginning to break, came to his assistance. Footprints stamped in the sand, weeds trodden down here and there, heather crushed, young branches in the brushwood bent and in the act of straightening themselves up again with the graceful deliberation of the arms of a pretty woman who stretches herself when she wakes, pointed out to him a sort of track. He followed it, then lost it. Time was flying. He plunged deeper into the woods and came to a sort of eminence. An early huntsman who was passing in the distance along a path, whistling the air of Guillory, suggested to him the idea of climbing a tree. Old as he was agile. There stood close at hand a beech tree of great size, worthy of Tityrus and Boulatruelle. Boulatruelle ascended the beech as high as he was able. The idea was a good one. On scrutinizing the solitary waste on the side where the forest is thoroughly entangled and wild, Boulatruelle suddenly caught sight of his man. Hardly had he got his eye upon him when he lost sight of him. The man entered, or rather glided into, an open glade, at a considerable distance masked by large trees, but with which Boulatruelle was perfectly familiar on account of having noticed, near a large pile of porous stones, an ailing chestnut tree, bandaged with a sheet of zinc nailed directly upon the bark. This glade was the one which was formerly called the Blalu-Bottom, a heap of stones destined for no one knows what employment, which was visible here 30 years ago, is doubtless still there. Nothing equals a heap of stones in longevity unless it is a board fence. They are temporary expedients. What a reason for lasting. Boulatruelle, with a rapidity of joy, dropped rather than descended from the tree. The lair was unearthed. The question now was to seize the beast. That famous treasure of his dreams was probably there. It was no small matter to reach that glade. By the beaten paths, which indulge in 1,000 teasing zigzags, it required a good quarter of an hour, in a beeline, through the underbrush, which is peculiarly dense, very thorny, and very aggressive in that locality. A full half-hour was necessary. Boulatruelle committed the error of not comprehending this. He believed in the straight line, a respectable optical illusion which ruins many a man. The thicket, bristling as it was, struck him as the best road. "Let's take to the wolves' Rue de Rivoli," said he. Boulatruelle, accustomed to taking crooked courses, was on this occasion guilty of the fault of going straight. He flung himself resolutely into the tangle of undergrowth. He had to deal with holly bushes, nettles, hawthorns, eglantines, thistles, and very irascible brambles. He was much lacerated. At the bottom of the ravine he found water which he was obliged to traverse. At last he reached the Blaru-Bottom, after the lapse of 40 minutes, sweating, soaked, breathless, scratched, and ferocious. There was no one in the glade. Boulatruelle rushed to the heap of stones. It was in its place. It had not been carried off. As for the man, he had vanished in the forest. He had made his escape. Where? In what direction? Into what thicket? Impossible to guess. And heartrending to say, there behind the pile of stones in front of the tree with the sheet of zinc was freshly turned to earth, a pickaxe, abandoned or forgotten, and a hole. The hole was empty. "Thief!" shrieked Boulatruelle, shaking his fist at the horizon. Thank you for joining Bite at a Time Books today, while we read a bite of one of your favorite classics. Again, my name is Bree Carlile, and I hope you come back tomorrow for the next bite of Les Miserables. Don't forget, you can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. And while you're there, check out our t-shirt shop. You can look in the show notes or on our website, biteatatimebooks.com, for the rest of the links for our show. We'd love to hear from you on social media. You can find us everywhere at Bite at a Time Books.